What is up, YouTube? Smiling on the third back here with another installment of predictions. But for those of you who've seen my videos before, I usually do the MMA predictions. March is a bit of a slow month for MMA. Yeah, we've got Bellator and the Ultimate Fighter, but the Ultimate Fighter is kind of hard to predict since we don't know who's going to be fighting who. And Bellator, the fight should be very entertaining, but if I were to do predictions, I'd just be guessing. But it is March, which means baseball season is right around the corner. I've been a baseball fan all my life, so over the next few days I'm going to be posting my predictions division by division for the 2012 Major League Baseball season. So it kind of seems like the unwritten rule for doing baseball predictions is that you start with the American League East, work our way over to the American League West, and then do the National League. That's how I've always kind of read things in Sports Illustrated. So without further ado, my predictions for the American League East in the year 2012. Alright, so starting off, I think the team that's going to place fifth in this division this year is going to be the Baltimore Orioles. And plain and simple, I just kind of feel sorry for this team because they're a below average team. They're not a terrible, awful team with nothing going for them, kind of like, say the Minnesota Twins or the Houston Astros were last year. But they're a below average team to begin with, and they play in the American League East. That's 18 games a year against the Red Sox, the Rays, the Yankees, and the Blue Jays. And let's say, so that's 72 games. That's almost half their schedule. Let's say they win, 26, 27 of those games. They would have to go, and play 500 ball against all their other opponents just to avoid losing 90 games. And with the team they have, especially with how thin their pitching is, I just don't see it happening. I mean, they've got promise offensively. Adam Jones is a five-tool player. Mark Reynolds can hit the ball a mile when he hits it. Matt Wieters is, one of the best young catchers in baseball who could have a couple breakthrough years and be one of the best catchers in baseball, period. So they've got promise offensively, but their pitching staff is just so thin that they're just not going to be able to stop teams like the Yankees, the Rays, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and really anyone else with two or three bona fide hitters from beating up on them. So I think they round out the year with 95, 96 losses, maybe not 100, but I just don't see them, making any sort of splash in the American League East this year. Alright, moving on. The team I think is going to finish fourth in the American League East this year is the Toronto Blue Jays. And kind of like with the Orioles, I feel bad for the Blue Jays in the fact that they are perennially a 500 team who plays a third of their schedule against three of the best teams in baseball, whereas if you put them in almost any other division, they'd be contending for a division title year in and year out. But these things happen, and I don't think 2012 is going to be the year that they break through and break in the top three or contend for a playoff spot. Just because, outside of Jose Bautista, who's an absolute monster, offensively, they are a very, very average team. I like the Colby Erasmus pickup, but, average isn't going to cut it in the American League East if you want to make a statement. But that being said, I do think they're going to be much, much better than the Baltimore Orioles just on the strength of their pitching. And Ricky Romero, Brendan Morrow are both, better than anyone the Orioles have on their staff. The number one and number two pitchers in Toronto who might be number two or number three just about anywhere else. But, they're both, solid guys. Brett Cecil, he went 15-7 in 2010 and then only won 4 games last year. If he can make a turnaround, that'll help them out a lot. And then someone like Kyle Drabeck, who looked promising at the beginning of last year as a rookie before he got knocked around a little bit and ended up getting sent down to the minors. If he can make a turnaround, they could have a pretty good thing going here in Toronto. I just don't see it happening this year. I think they win, again, 80, 81 games, finish around 500. Alright, now this is where my job becomes rather difficult, trying to sort out the top 3 teams in this division, being the Red Sox, the Rays, and the Yankees, because all 3 teams are playoff quality teams who could literally all make the playoffs this year with the new Major League Baseball system that they're implementing this year. But without further ado, I think the team that's going to finish third in this division this year is the Boston Red Sox. And, I find myself a little surprised that I'm saying that because their offense should be great as usual. I think Carl Crawford is going to kind of step back up and not struggle like he did last year. And their pitching, their starting rotation looks awesome. Josh Beckett, John Lester, Clay Buchholz, and Alfredo Aceves. Their fifth spot is kind of in limbo right now because they're trying to transition Daniel Bard from being a reliever to a starter, and Daisuke Matsuzaka is coming off his Tommy John surgery, so the fifth spot is a little sketchy right now. But with their 1 through 4, I'm not too worried about their fifth spot. But what does worry me is their bullpen, because Jonathan Papelbon is now with the Phillies, Bobby Jenks is injured, so their closer right now is Andrew Bailey, who's been saving about 25 games a year for the Athletics the past few years. So I think he's a capable closer, but I just don't know that he's going to be able to hold up to the pressure of playing in the American League East, along with the tight games they're going to be in with the Rays, the Yankees, and the Blue Jays. And on top of that, Jason Varitek is retired, so trying to have Jared Salsalamakia or Kelly Shopik fill his role as a catcher and somebody to try to, fill the role as captain, I think they're going to struggle with that this year. And they could still win 90 games, but with the way the Yankees and Rays look, that is good. I think that's going to be good for about third in this division. All right, moving on, I think the team that's going to finish second in the American League East this year is the Tampa Bay Rays, and what I like a lot about this team is their balance. They're very solid top to bottom, offensively, defensively, pitching, and I think their starting rotation, James Shields, David Price, Jeremy Hellickson, Wade Davis, and Matt Moore, could be top to bottom the best in the major leagues this year. And I trust their bullpen a little bit more than I do the Red Sox. I trust Kyle Farnsworth certainly more than Andrew Bailey just because he's been in this division. He was with the Rays down the stretch last year when they made the run to make it to the playoffs. And, Fernando Rodney, Joel Peralta, I think, again, are guys who are a little more trustworthy than anyone the Red Sox have in their bullpen. So I think that's what separates them bullpen-wise. And then offensively, I really like what they have going on. Carlos Pena, Ben Zobrist, Evan Longoria. I'm hoping B.J. Upton can really have a good year and play to his potential. And then Matt Joyce in right field. Just the couple question marks for me are Desmond Jennings in left field. How is he going to be able to handle playing full-time after a good rookie campaign last year? But, let's see how he can do over the course of 162 games. And then a designated hitter, I'm just a little surprised they couldn't find anyone better than Luke Scott. Luke Scott is a career, 270 hitter, if that. So again, with a team that's as solid top to bottom as the Rays, I am surprised they couldn't find anyone better than Luke Scott, who hit 220 last year as a 264 career hitter. But I like this team. I think they're solid top to bottom, but they just can't get enough done to beat the Yankees. I think they win 93, 94 games, but the Yankees are just going to be better than that. So obviously, and as I've kind of been alluding to, I think the team that ends up winning the American League East this year is going to be the New York Yankees, which it kind of pains me to say that because I don't like the Yankees at all. But just looking at their roster again, wow, they've managed to put together another great roster this year. When you've got Andrew Jones, who 10 years ago was one of the best players in baseball, as your backup right fielder, backup designated hitter, they've got a good thing going here. Jorge Posada retired, but Russell Martin is, still one of the best, maybe top 10 catchers in baseball. And, everywhere else is solid. Their outfield, Gardner, Granderson, Swisher, infield, Rodriguez, Jeter, Cano, Teixeira. It just looks like how do you beat them? So, and to top that off, their starting rotation, CC Sabathia and Ivan Nova could be the best 1-2 punch in baseball this year. Sabathia's been one of the best for a while, and Nova has scary potential. And on top of that, their bullpen, Mariano Rivera, Rafael Soriano, Boone Logan, Jabba Chamberlain. It's hard to see anyone else in this division beating them consistently enough to overtake the number one spot. But hey, it's the American League East. Crazier things have happened. But I see the Yankees finishing this year with 98 to 100 wins and garnering that division championship yet again in baseball's most competitive division.